Hello, everyone. This is Laura, and welcome back to Become a Fluent English Speaker. Today, I want to talk about something almost everyone has experienced. That terrible feeling when you suddenly remember something embarrassing you did years ago. You could be making breakfast. You could be walking down the street. You could even be trying to fall asleep. Then suddenly, your brain says, "Hey, remember that embarrassing thing you did 5 years ago?" And you think, "Please don't." But your brain continues. You remember exactly what you said. You remember everyone's face. You remember the silence. And somehow, you feel embarrassed all over again. I know this feeling very well. A few years ago, I was giving a presentation in front of a small group of people. I had prepared everything carefully. I practiced my introduction. I checked my notes. I even practiced my facial expressions in the mirror. I felt ready. Then I walked into the room. I smiled confidently. I connected my laptop. I looked at everyone and said, "Good morning, everyone. I'm very excited to be here." There was only one problem. It wasn't morning. It was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The room became completely silent. Then one person laughed. Another person smiled, and I realized my mistake. I wanted the floor to open and swallow me. For the rest of the presentation, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I kept telling myself, everyone thinks I'm stupid. They're going to remember this forever. They'll probably talk about it after I leave. But something interesting happened. After the presentation, one of the people came up to me. She smiled and said, "Don't worry, I've made much worse mistakes." Then she laughed. That was it. Nobody cared. Nobody thought I was stupid. Nobody spent the evening talking about my mistake. In fact, most people probably forgot about it before they even left the building. But I remembered it for years.
Why?
Because our brains often pay special attention to moments when we feel embarrassed. When something uncomfortable happens, we replay it. We analyze it. We imagine what other people were thinking. Sometimes we even create a much bigger story than what actually happened. Think about it. When you make a small mistake while speaking English, you might think everyone noticed, but maybe they didn't. You might think, "My English is terrible," but perhaps you simply made one small mistake. You might think, "I'll never speak confidently," but one difficult conversation doesn't define your ability. This is something I want every English learner to remember. Mistakes are information. They are not your identity. When you're learning a language, mistakes are unavoidable. You will use the wrong word. You will forget vocabulary. You will pronounce something incorrectly. You may create a sentence that sounds strange. That's normal. In fact, every mistake gives your brain another opportunity to learn. Imagine learning to ride a bicycle. You wouldn't expect yourself to balance perfectly on the first attempt. You would fall. You would adjust. You would try again. Language learning works in a similar way. You speak. You make a mistake. You notice it. You correct it. Then you try again. That's progress. So the next time your brain reminds you about an embarrassing moment, try something different. Instead of saying, "Why did I do that?" ask, "What did that experience teach me?" Maybe you learned to prepare better. Maybe you learned not to take yourself too seriously. Maybe you learned that people are much more forgiving than you imagined. And sometimes, you simply learn that you're human. That's something worth remembering. Before we finish today's podcast, let's learn some useful English vocabulary from today's story. Embarrassed means feeling uncomfortable because of something you did or something that happened. Mistake means something you did incorrectly. Confident means feeling sure about yourself or your abilities. Awkward means uncomfortable or strange. Replay means to think about an event again in your mind. Forgiving means willing to accept someone's mistake without staying angry. Identity means the qualities and characteristics that make you who you are. Unavoidable means something that cannot be prevented. Now here's today's challenge. The next time you make a mistake while speaking English, don't immediately stop talking. Take a breath. Continue your sentence. Keep the conversation going. You don't need perfect English to communicate. You need the courage to keep communicating. And remember, the mistake that feels enormous to you may be almost invisible to everyone else. Before you leave, answer today's question in the comments. What's one embarrassing moment that you can laugh about now? I'd love to read your stories. If you enjoyed today's English listening podcast, don't forget to subscribe to Become a Fluent English Speaker. This is Laura, and remember, don't let one awkward moment become the story you tell yourself about who you are. Keep listening, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next podcast.